حي على الفلاح.
Bani Israel were trying to start a new life away from Pharaoh's oppressive regime, but their tribalism, quarrelsome nature, and distrust of each other led to several disputes. They also held on to their love of money, gold, and were at the same time filled with stinginess, jealousy, and envy. During the years of that, the children of Israel wandered the desert, unable to enter the promised land. An incident took place. It was said that among the children of Israel there lived a pious man. He was poor, but very careful about how he earned his living. It had to be honestly earned. Everything that he did was done for the sake of Allah, never for selfish gain. On his deathbed, his last words were, "O Allah, I place my life, my son, and my only possession, a calf, in your care." The calf was very unique. It was unblemished and was yellow in color. Strangely, he asked his wife to lead the calf to the forest and leave it there. He did this because he did not trust the children of Israel, for they were a selfish and a greedy folk. The young man, now grown up, was as pious as his father. He earned his living by cutting wood. Whatever he earned, he divided into 3 equal portions. 1 he gave to his mother, 1 he used for his needs, and the last he gave as charity. His nights too were divided into 3 parts. During the early part of the night, he helped his mother. The middle part he devoted to the worship of Allah, and during the last part, he rested. His mother told him, "Your father has left you a calf in the trust of Allah. It must have grown into a cow by now." The son was surprised. He did not know of any calf all these years and asked his mother where it was. She replied, "Be like your father and say, 'I trust in Allah,' then go look for it." With the rope in his hand, he went to the forest and prostrated himself before Allah. "O Allah, Lord of Ibrahim and Yaqub and Ayub, return to me my father's trust." As he raised his head, he saw a cow coming towards him. It stopped submissively beside him. He tied the rope around its neck and led it to his house. His mother said, "My son, go to the market and sell this cow for 3 dinars, but do not sell it to any buyer without consulting me." In those days, the usual cost of a cow was about 3 dinars. A buyer came in the market, who in reality was an angel. In fact, the angel said, "I will pay you more than 3 dinars on a condition that you sell me the cow without consulting your mother." The boy replied, "No matter how much more you offer me, I will not sell the cow without consulting my mother." Reaching home, the boy related the whole event to his mother. She said perhaps the buyer was an angel. "Therefore, O son, consult with him whether we should sell the cow or not." Thus, when the boy consulted with that buyer in the market, he advised not to sell the cow. He said that in the future, the people of Musa will buy this cow. He further advised to demand the price equivalent to the amount of gold that can be filled in the hide of the cow. They will pay the price he wishes. The young man knew that there was a hidden wisdom behind all this. He took good care of the cow and did not allow her to be used as a beast of burden, which was a rare way to treat cattle during this time. Meanwhile, there was among the Israelites a very wealthy man who was old. He had nephews who wished that he died in order to inherit his wealth. One of them slew him one night and threw his body in the middle of the way. In another narration, it says that they threw him on the door of a man from among their people. The discovery of his body created an uproar. They disputed the identity of the murderer, and this murder created a lot of suspicion and distrust within the community. His nephew, the murderer, also participated in these heated debates on finding a solution and pretended to weep and suffer grief at the death of his uncle. It was crucial for keeping the peace within Bani Israel that the murderer was identified. However, there were no clues. The Israelites disputed and debated until one of them suggested, "Why are you disputing here? And do not go to the Prophet of Allah." The dead man's nephew, the murderer, pretended to be innocent and approached Musa alayhi salam for help. Musa said, "I ask each one of you in the name of Allah that if he has any knowledge about this, he should inform us." Yet, no one volunteered any information. And of course, the murderer simply kept quiet and played along with his drama. Then they asked Musa alayhi salam to ask his Lord for a solution. It is noted here that the phrase used by Bani Israel throughout these conversations, as set out in the Quran, is "your Lord" instead of "our Lord," which was an indication that many of Bani Israel still disbelieved in Allah. This is despite all the miracles that they had witnessed both in Egypt and during their exodus, where those fleeing Egypt with Musa alayhi salam were saved when the Red Sea parted and allowed them a dry road. Even though Allah had caused them to triumph over the Pharaoh's regime, they were stubborn in recognizing their Lord. They had also forgotten how Allah had made 12 springs materialize from the parched desert sands in order to supply each tribe of Bani Israel with fresh water. They had forgotten how Allah provided Bani Israel with food from unknown origins without them having to work for it. At the same time, whenever a dispute arose, they would remember Musa alayhi salam's piety and ask him to obtain divine help on their behalf. When the issue had been settled, they would continue in their denial of Allah and revert to their previous disbelief. When they came to Musa and told him everything that happened, Musa alayhi salam asked Allah what the people should do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then instructed Musa to tell them to sacrifice a cow and take a place of its flesh and put it on the dead man's body. Musa alayhi salam said this would be the way for them to find out who the murderer was. At once, the people ridiculed and accused Musa for joking. They made fun of him and said, "You want us to sacrifice a cow to find out who the murderer is?" They said, "Do you ridicule us?" They thought it was a joke because they asked about something and were told to do something seemingly different. Musa said regarding their reply, "I seek refuge in Allah from being among the ignorant. I seek refuge in Allah from conveying something on his behalf that he did not reveal to me." Had they slaughtered the cow immediately, the command of Allah would have been fulfilled and the matter would have been brought to rest. However, for various reasons, delay tactics, stinginess, disbelief in Allah, they did not obey Allah immediately. Instead, they asked multiple questions, apparently to ascertain that they would sacrifice the cow with the correct characteristics. Therefore, even though Allah had made it easy for them by not specifying any particular cow, they said, "Call upon your Lord for us, that he may make plain to us what it is." Musa said, "He says, surely she is a cow neither advanced in age nor too young, of middle age between that and this. Do therefore what you are commanded." This condition was not difficult to comply with, as the description of the cow was still so general that it would have been easy to find a cow of matching description. Yet, unwillingly to obey, Bani Israel continued with their loathsome questioning, and this time asked for the color of the cow. Musa, all fed up with his people, once again asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he replied, "Her color is intensely yellow, giving delight to the beholders." Bani Israel, with their arrogance, stubbornness, and hard-heartedness, still dragged their feet, refused to comply with Allah's orders, and demanded a further description. "Call upon your Lord for us to make plain to us what it is. Verily, to us all cows are alike, and surely, if Allah wills, we will be guided." This time, because of the extent of their stubbornness and their clear and direct insolence towards Allah, Allah rewarded them by stipulating exceptionally difficult conditions. He says, "It is a cow, neither trained to plow the earth, nor to irrigate the field, one free from fault, with no spot upon her." When Musa alayhi salam replied to all their questions, and provided an accurate description. They said, "Now you have brought the truth." Bani Israel was now placed in a tricky situation. Where was one to find a cow that had not worked at all, and on top of that, free from defects or blemishes? It was virtually impossible. According to riwayat, the only cow fulfilling the detailed criteria set by Allah was that belonging to the son of the pious parents. Remembering his mother's instructions, the boy refused to sell the cow at the normal market price. The Israelites negotiated hard with him. He told them he would have to ask his mother before he could sell it. A while later, they came to his house and offered 3 gold coins for the cow. The mother refused and said the cow was worth much more than 3 gold coins. They kept increasing their offer, and the mother kept on turning their offers away. And so the orphan finally interjected and said, "I will not sell the cow without my mother's approval, even if you offered me its skin filled with gold." Upon hearing this, his mother smiled and said, "Let that be the price, its skin filled with gold." The people were disappointed, but had no choice but to pay up, since no other cow could fulfill the requirements. Some reports say that eventually, the Israelites were forced to agree to 10 times the cow's weight in gold, as a punishment for their stubborn attitudes. Those involved now had to dig deep into their pockets and collect jewelry from their women for the staggering payment of this cow. Even then, there was a high degree of reluctance to sacrifice the cow. Bani Israel was still on the verge of disobeying Allah, as the following verse reveals. They sacrificed it, though they were near to not doing it. Once the cow was sacrificed, Musa alayhi salam instructed them with the command of Allah to strike the dead man with a piece of meat from the cow. When they struck the murder victim, the dead body stood up and explained how he was murdered. He ended the statement with the words, "It was my cousin so-and-so, and so-and-so was his accomplice," and then died once again. Allah said, "Thus Allah brings the dead to life and shows you his signs so that you may understand," meaning that this is just like you have seen how Allah brought this person back to life from after his death. Similarly, he will bring back his slaves to life on the day of judgment. And Allah says, "And remember when you slew a man and fell into dispute among yourselves as to the crime, but Allah brought forth that which you were hiding. So he said, strike him, the dead man, with a piece of it, the cow." Thus Allah brings the dead to life and shows you his ayat, proofs, evidences, verses, lessons, signs, revelations, so that you may understand. Then after that, your hearts were hardened and became as stones, or even worse in hardness. And indeed, there are stones out of which rivers gush forth. And indeed, there are of them stones which fall down for fear of Allah. And Allah is not unaware of what you do. The lesson that we can learn from the owner of the yellow cow is that if we are pious and trust in Allah, Allah will take care of us and our family, even in the next generation. The boy in this story obeyed his pious parents, acknowledging that their advice to him must have contained some higher wisdom. In return for his parents' piety and also his own obedience, Allah rewarded him abundantly by making his cow the only cow that matched the description of the heifer needed by Bani Israel. If we believe in Allah, it is our obligation to obey as soon as possible, without excuses. If we keep disobeying, delaying, making excuses, or playing games with Allah, a sickness will enter our hearts. The hypocrisy will increase and the hearts will be hardened. Instead of obeying a relatively simple order, Bani Israel inflicted difficulty on themselves and behaved with complete contempt towards Allah and His Messenger. Every time they were sent a sign from Allah, they would deny it, delay, and dispute. This is why Allah made the final description of the cow almost impossible to comply with.